Welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Juliet.
Hello, I am Gabe. Gabe Lincoln.
Gabe Lincoln. Wow, what a fun portmanteau.
Yeah, yeah. It's a name I've had for 10 years, but that is not really the topic of discussion here. The topic of
No.
discussion here
Mhm.
is spiders,
Wow, spiders.
which are a classic fantasy flavor.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I don't know every piece of trivia to the third decimal place, but giant spider was the longest continuously reprinted card from Alpha?
I believe it was in I believe that is true. It was in standard the longest. And
In all
like
the core sets until what, like M14 or whatever when they
yeah, it was in
reprinted stuff?
M14 and the other and it was the second longest one was Giant Growth, which was
Sure.
also in standard for forever.
Yeah. And so giant spider in some ways sets up maybe a mold that other spiders fit in. Giant spider, of course, is 3 and a green for a common 2/4 creature spider with reach. Or as it was originally printed, giant spider may block as though it had flying.
Yeah, that's a funny line,
Mhm.
but it's one of those lines where it's like, thank goodness this stuff was keyworded
Sure.
because man, imagine all of the reach creatures we've had and how annoying it would be to say giant spider can block as though it had flying all the
Every
time.
single time. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder when
Yeah.
that was keyworded. Was that one of the ones keyworded in Time Spiral?
Because we had that little elf archer, right? Thornwield archer who got, like, progressively keyworded in Future Sight with reach and death touch both being a swap to that, but let's look at the wiki. Yeah, reach, of course, introduced as a mechanic in alpha and then keyworded in Future Sight alongside death touch.
Death Touch and Reach. That was the spider keyword set.
But not on a spider, of course, on an elf archer.
Of course not.
We also saw a kind of flip to giant spider in the time spiral block. I believe this is in planar chaos. We had needle peak spider for 3 and a red. It was a 4/2 with reach.
Ah,
Just as
yes.
a flip-flop as you move to a different color. But we do eventually get a reach and death touch common spider that gets reprinted a few times. It's Deadly Recluse, 1 and a green for a 1/2 reach death touch creature spider that saw a number of M sets, I think, of the core sets in that way.
Yeah, I mean that is a classic. Hey, here's a cheap spider that is also a death toucher, and like the cheap death toucher is something that has been a thing in a lot of recent sets. There's even a reach death toucher in Foundations as a spider.
Mhm.
So it's a treetop snare spinner, which is 3 and a green creature spider, reach death touch, with an activated ability. 2G, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, activate only as a sorcery for a 1/4.
Mm.
Yeah, so Giant Spider still lives on in standard, although it's not quite Giant Spider, but we still got the big butts and the reach.
Sure, sure. Another kind of fun one that shows up in Corset is Tangle Spider, which is 4 green and a green for a 3/4, and this one has reach and flash.
Ah,
And being able to flash in and, "Oh, I can block your 2/2 flyer," or anything like that pretty effectively. Your Windrakes and things with a surprise.
yeah. Flash has mostly moved out of green at this point. I don't think we'd see a like giant spider with flash nowadays.
It would be slightly surprising. It is, it's something that you could also think about, "Oh, yeah, all spiders have flash reach." Like, that would be a conceivable different timeline that we could have ended up in is just like, "Oh, yeah, all spiders have flash reach. That's what a spider is." I also think about dealing damage to creatures with flying as another spidery thing. We saw Silklash Spider show up at least in, I wanna say, 8th and ninth edition, which is 3 green and a green for a 2/7. Wow, what a difference. With reach, and you pay X green green, Silklash Spider deals X damage to each creature with flying. And, like, that's obviously a rare, but as far as, I'm gonna play this 2/7, and if you have lots of creatures with flying, I'm gonna be able to do a lot, and if you don't, this spider is ill-equipped to contend against, a bunch of goblins or dinosaurs or things you have on the battlefield that don't fly.
Yeah. I looked it up, and it is apparently ninth ed and Magic 2013.
2013, that's the other one, of course, of
Yes.
course. I'm a little surprised we don't see more spiders with what we sometimes would call, like, a bite effect towards flying, or honestly, spiders with just like, "Hey, enters the battlefield, fight something
Yeah,
with flying."
I think they want to kind of avoid having that sort of thing. I think having a bite is a bit too close to like, hey, it's the red creature that deals damage on ETB.
Mhm.
Maybe in, green red or something. Or just in red, I guess.
And speaking of in red, we've seen gold spiders as a thing from, like, really early sets. As soon as we get multicolor, we start getting some multicolor spiders. The classic ancient spider, which is 2 green and a white for a 2/5. It's a it's a rare because it's gold, and it has first strike and reach. First strike, reach 2/5 for 2 green white. That's a rare.
That's definitely a rare. That wouldn't even be an uncommon nowadays.
And,
Probably.
funnily enough, after Giant Spider, would you believe that the 3rd spider ever printed, I believe, actually, I think tied with the 2nd because it came in Ice Age, is Giant Trapdoor Spider for 1 red and a green, which is it's a 1 red and green 2/3 creature spider, of course, and then you can pay 1 red and a green and exile Giant Trapdoor Spider and target creature without flying that's attacking you, which makes sense for what trapdoor spiders do. They don't attack flying things, but it's interesting to see a spider that specifically can kind of Mangara of Corondor, I suppose, out a creature that's attacking you and itself.
What card was that? I assume you're referencing some card that I have never heard of.
In Giant Trapdoor Spider or
Uh,
Mangara of Corondor?
Mangara of Karandor.
Yeah, that's another that's another time spiral card. It's 1 white, no white for a 1/1 legendary creature, human wizard, and it has tap, exile Mangara of Corondor, and target permanent, which is basically like a creature that removes itself and a threat at the same time.
Ah, sort of like an inverse Oblivion Ring,
Mhm, mhm.
where instead of it being temporary, it's permanent, but both of them are gone permanently.
Mangara, because the exile is in the effect and not in the cost, pairs neatly with the old land Caracas that lets you
Ah, of course. Yeah.
bounce a legend, and so you can just keep playing him as a kind of vindicate where he's like, "I'm gonna exile myself and you," and then whoop, and then he's like, "I'm gonna exile myself and you," whoop, and you can keep doing
Very
that.
slow, repeatable remove. But
Mhm.
yes, I see.
At one point in time, it was,
It was a legitimate combo when Magic was significantly slower, yes.
in Legacy, you know what I mean? Like, that was a part of what made Death and Taxes work once upon a time. I think this is in, like,
Ah,
the pre-Thalia era, and certainly in the pre-Monarch, pre-Initiative, pre-Yorion era. So, again, it was a different time. We've also, of course, seen black green as a spider overlap. I think one of the biggest of these being Nyx Weaver, which is an enchantment creature spider. For 1 black and a green, that's a 2/3 again with reach again. This one has, at the beginning of your upkeep, you can mill 2 cards. And then you can pay 1 black green to exile Nyx Weaver, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. So, in addition to being a 2/3 spider with reach, you have this milling, 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 and then eventually you can rebuy something from your graveyard at the cost of your weaver, the cost of your enchantment spider.
Yeah, I mean that's just a reasonable thing, especially like I mean
Sure.
it's from OG Theros. It's not a commander card.
I mean, I think it's kind of a commander card for people who like spiders or people who like enchantments and for people who like a little bit of like milling in addition to graveyard value, right? Like it's a playable commander card. I don't know. And then rounding out our green gold multicolor spiders, we have, I believe, the most recent of these entries by a decade. We have Vile Spawn Spider, which is green and a blue for a 2/3 creature spider. Wow. Only 2 mana instead of 3 for that 2/3. And it has, at the beginning of your upkeep, mill a card. And then its ability is 2 green blue, tap, sacrifice Vile Spawn Spider, create a 1/1 green insect creature token for each creature card in your graveyard. Activate only as a sorcery.
So
And so
it's
we
spider spawning on a stick.
kind of, yeah. It's interesting to think about. A lot of these gold spiders have, here this thing can happen, sometimes milling as a thing. We're gonna have reach, and then you can pay some colorless mana and then the gold cost. So like 1 green and a blue, or 1 black and a green, 1 red and a green, etc. Tap, sacrifice this thing or exile this thing, get get some extra effect out of it. That's an interesting like recurring beat as far as the gold spiders go. But speaking of spider spawning, can you tell us a little bit about spider spawning?
So spider spawning, 4 and a green for a sorcery. Create a 1/2 green spider creature token with reach for each creature card in your graveyard. Flashback 6 and a black. And like this spider spawning apparently, this was before my time, but apparently
Mhm.
in original Innistrad, spider spawning is like one of the iconic build around.
Mhm. It was one of the iconic build arounds, and I think one of the particular things about it is it wasn't, like, quote, unquote, "discovered" until quite a bit of the ways through that limited format, which was one of the most beloved limited formats of all time, and the discovery of the spider spawning deck, and that was a thing you could do, that it wasn't just this, like, unplayable extra card, because it's like, okay, 4 and a green, and you're creating some tokens. Okay, flashback 6 and a black. How could that compare with any of the more aggressive things that you could do or any of the more specific things? But spider spawning was a big part of the self-mill combo deck as a kind of board stabilizer and finisher once you have just enough things in your graveyard, and that is kind of an iconic piece of history in that way. We've seen, for each of the different times we've returned to Innistrad, spiders have been a decently big part of the set, not in the sense of they always have an iconic, like, limited thing, but every time we return to Innistrad, there are spiders, which isn't necessarily true of every set. You know what I mean? We don't see
No.
spiders in every set. You might think, "Okay, there's a spider in, most sets," but really it's like one every few sets, and then there's specific locations where every time we're gonna see spiders, sometimes with the common and in that kinda like mythic rare sort of space.
Well, I mean, spiders are sort of a classic horror
Mhm.
thing, you know? And like there's just a lot of people who are scared of spiders,
Yeah.
which is why you see them sort of you'd see them at a much higher rate than is typical in Innistrad than most other places.
Yeah. Also from original Innistrad, we've got Spidery Grasp for 2 and a green. That's an instant at common with untapped target creature. It gets +2/+4 and gains reach until end of turn. Nobody's seen the Lady of Videns for years. Poor dear, no companions at all in that old castle. Yonda of Gavany. And so we have, hey, here's you get a you get a giant spider worth of bonus on I think what the relatively early untapped target creature combat tricks for green. And I really like this card. Not that it is a spider necessarily. Of course, it's just a spider themed instant, but because it after original Innistrad, it seems like, okay, we just have the Eldrazi horror, and we just have the werewolf horror and the vampire horror, you know what I mean? That we're, like, really hitting these various horror
Specific
notes.
beats.
Yeah, whereas original Innistrad, it's like, yeah, even when you go to a, like, rich lady's manor that isn't she's not secretly a vampire, she's not secretly a werewolf, she's not secretly an Eldrazi cultist, but she still will have some messed up stuff that is, like, spooky scary in kind of a fun and, like, easily grokkable sort of way.
Yeah, like she's got these weird long fingers that are apparently spawning out all this spider web, and
Mhm,
it's like spooky scary, but it's not specifically, the iconic Innistrad types spooky scary,
mhm, mhm,
which is very cool, and I think is part of the reason why like we see spiders every time we go to Innistrad. It's because it's spooky scary, but it's not it makes the world richer for Innistrad to not be like, oh, everything spooky scary on Innistrad is gonna be a vampire, a werewolf, a zombie, or a
mhm,
ghost.
mhm. When we saw Eldritch Moon alongside all of the other kind of scary things we had there, we had Ishkana Graph Widow at Mythic. That's a legendary spider. It's a 3/5 for 4 and a green. It's reach. If you have Delirium, you can make 3 of these 1/2 green spider creature tokens, and then you can pay 6 and a black, much like the original Spider Spawning's flashback cost. Uh, in this case, target opponent loses a life for each spider you control. And then in Midnight Hunt, we had Broodweaver for 3 and a green, 2/4 reach, like Giant Spider, and when it dies, you just create one of these 1/2 green spider creature tokens with reach. And so I think because maybe of Spider Spawning's success and iconicity in that way, specifically 1/2 green spider creature tokens are like, that's a token that Innistrad wants to keep coming back to, in a way, and I think that's kind of neat to think about, okay, spiders can be this peculiar token shape that we don't really see much shaped like a 1/2 token with reach, I don't think.
Yeah, I know we said that we weren't talking about the Spider-Man stuff, but
Uh-huh,
they did bring the 1/2 green spider token with reach back for the Spider-Man stuff.
mhm. And listener at home, yeah, we're not covering the Spider-Man stuff today. We're talking about the history of spiders and the future of spiders, not the present of spiders. And I think that's its own
And not
delightful.
also the demands of spiders.
Yeah, yeah. As we always say, can I borrow a cup of spiders?
I
On the
don't think
other,
anyone has ever said that. I'm gonna be real
I
with you.
I've said that many times in my life.
Surely.
Yeah, genuinely, earnestly, like, Scout's honor, hand on my heart. I have said the phrase, "Can I borrow a cup of spiders?" at least 20 times in my life.
Dang it.
It's like, "Can I borrow a cup of sugar?" Right? But, "Oh, can I borrow a cup of spiders?"
Surely.
Uh-huh,
Surely. People say
yeah.
that. I do not believe you. I believe you are lying to me.
I it is a it's a line that Vriska says at the beginning of Risky Business.
I don't even know what risky business is.
Uh, yeah, don't worry about it. On the far opposite side to little 1/2 green spider creature tokens with reach, we have another iconic Magic setting and popular Magic setting that is inextricably linked with spiders, but I don't think one that most people think of as inextricably linked with spiders, and that is Ravnica City of Guilds. And its connection and obsession with spiders, but not just spiders, but not just giant spider in the sense of 3 and a green for a 2/4, actually very big spiders. In Ravnica City of Guilds, the original set, we had Goliath Spider for 6 green and a green. That's an uncommon 7/6 creature spider with reach.
Weird that, like, looking at Goliath Spider, they've done, and even right? So, like, Goliath Spider inverts the power and toughness that spiders typically have, where they have big butts,
Mhm,
right? Which is kind of, the big butts thing is kind of weird. If you like think about spiders, you typically think of spiders as being all spindly with long legs and kind of fragile looking.
mhm,
But in MKM, which admittedly, this is made on exactly one card in MKM.
mhm,
Uh, they make 2/1 spider creatures with reach. Oh, with menace
mm.
and reach. On Izoni Center of the Web, which is 4 black green for a 5/4 elf detective
Mhm,
with menace. It says whenever Izoni Center of the Web enters the battlefield or attacks, you may collect evidence for. If you do, create 2/1 black and green spider creature tokens with menace and reach.
mhm,
It's kind of weird that that is a thing that has happened multiple times on Ravnica. Like, obviously, every set has its own needs, and there's going to be some spiders that are bigger than, that are like more powerful than they are tough. But it is strange that they'd make 2/1 spider creature tokens
mhm.
for Ravnica. Also, that
We
spider looks real weird on this creature token.
we have seen a 2/1, just like the equivalent of a bear, but -1 toughness and plus reach. I believe Grappler Spider from Worldwake was one of those. So we'll occasionally see the 2/1 spider as an idea. And is it Drider that also makes a yes, yeah, Drider also makes a 2/1 black spider creature token with reach, and menace. That's from the,
D&D, Adventures of
yeah,
the
yeah.
Forgotten Realms.
Thank you. I was like, "What's the name of the D&D set?" But on Ravnica, we once we returned to Ravnica the first time, I believe in Gate Crash, we got Archweaver, which is 5 green and a green for a reach trample 5/5. Then in the Ravnica Allegiance War era, we got Hatchery Spider, that's a 5/7 rare for 5 green and green with reach and a bunch of undergrowth stuff that you can do to get green permanents with the right converted mana cost and everything. And then in Murders of Karlov Manor, as you mentioned, Izoni Center the Web and Glint Weaver, 5 green and a green, this time for a 3/3 creature spider
Yeah.
reach at uncommon. When Glint Weaver enters, distribute 3+1/+1 counters among creatures you control. Then you gain life equal to the greatest toughness. And so it doesn't have a big toughness thing, but it cares about big toughness things, and so I think that's somewhat interesting. But these,
Big
like,
toughness
5
was
mhm,
big. There's like kinda sorta they were trying for a big toughness sub theme that didn't really work out in MKM,
mhm,
right? But this card seems like, I mean, if you have that one like 115 or whatever it was in on the field, gaining 15 life is a lot.
mhm, mhm,
But that as far as I am aware never really worked out, where like the big butts deck didn't happen in MKM.
Yeah. I will expect whenever we have our 5th Ravnica block, our 5th entry in things, that we will have another 7 or 8 mana value spider, just because this has been such a consistent thing to have one of these 5 green and green, or the original Goliath spider, 6 green and a green. And none of these have, like, cost reduction mechanics. None of these are convoke or have, any sort of, like, morph or disguise or anything going on, which is just a fun, big mono green sort of beater.
Yeah.
That's a contrast, of course, with the Alara spiders that are mana value 6, which have either cycling or some type of land cycling on each of those, like a Pale Recluse and, what is it? Jungle Weaver that can both cycle for 2 generic mana.
Uh, yeah, I mean that does seem like something you really want to have on these gigantic spiders. I guess you'd also want them to actually be slightly bigger because both of those spiders are kind of understated.
Yeah, honestly, the idea of spending 7 mana for a reach trample 5/5 feels like it's like, I think we can get that for 5 mana. I feel extremely confident that we can we can do this for a different
Yeah,
cost.
at least give it to me for 6, right?
Mhm.
Like, reach isn't that valuable. Because
So
I'll give you a 6/6 for 6 with trample.
mhm. So thinking about the spiders of Christmas past, what do you
Spider
think?
Christmas pass.
Yeah, expect 3, 2, 4 visitors,
Yeah,
as the saying goes.
yeah.
That that's one I've never said before. I've never said the phrase "expect 3 to 4 visitors." I don't think anyone has ever said that one before.
That might
But
be a brand new sentence, yes.
what are you feeling of Spiders of Christmas Future?
Well, I think they're still gonna have reach.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And I think they're still gonna have big butts. Or
Mhm.
rather not specifically big butts, but butts that are bigger than they hit. That
So
sentence did
how
not make any sense.
yeah, but I mean toughness larger than power, power smaller
Yes.
than toughness. Yeah. Mhm.
But other than that, that's really it. Which has been the spider story for like 30 years. They're gonna have more toughness than they have power, and they're gonna have reach.
I'm
Which, like,
gonna say
reach for
mhm.
spiders, super flavorful. Everybody knows spiders catch super, like, resonantly flavorful. Everybody knows spiders catch flies. So why wouldn't a giant spider catch a griffin? Like on the art for Treetop Snare Spinner, which is a card I mentioned earlier in this podcast.
Yeah, from, Foundations, right?
Yes.
So, yeah. So I'm gonna say, let's see if we can't design a common spider, an uncommon spider, and a rare spider. See whether
Ah.
we can splash in these spaces. So, what is going to be either splashy or pioneering new space for spiders or being a new iconic common spider? What features do you think that card would have?
I think we'd want it to be like a sort of mid-rangey, like 4 or 5 mana.
4 or
You
5 mana?
know?
Okay.
Yeah, like that seems to be where a lot of spiders wind up.
Okay.
And like for at common, I think you do like in green a 4 mana 4/5 with reach. They actually give like a lot to common spiders nowadays. Although this is
Mhm.
6 mana on Cactarantula for 4 green and a green. Uh, is a 6/5 for 6 with this spell from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. This spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a desert, reach, and whenever Cactarantula becomes the target of a spell or ability, an opponent controls, you may draw a card as a sort of crime hate card.
Mhm. And so we've
So
seen all the way back to like Neshian Asp from original Theros, 4 and a green for a 4/5 reach, and then that has 6 and a green monstrosity 4 on top of that. So what's the new kind of cutting edge for 4/5 reach for 4 and a green creature spider and Qua? What's the what's the extra?
what is yeah? I guess giant spider with set mechanic is the problem with trying to design a common
Uh-huh.
giant spider. Like, what set are we doing? Are we doing another Ravnica set? Maybe we do like a
Sure. Yeah. Let's do an if we're doing another Ravnica set, a lot of those are uncommon, even if they don't really need to be. So let's jump to the uncommon. So we're
yeah.
starting from 5 green and a green, creature spider at uncommon in a Ravnica set.
I think it would be
Or should it be gold? This could also be gold. We could see finally a gold spider in a Ravnica set as new as that would be.
I think you kind of like if it's not one of these unaligned cards that they do exist on Ravnica, right? Like most of the giant spiders seem pretty unaligned when it comes to like Ravnica's flavor. So I
Mhm.
think maybe you'd want sort of a more flavor neutral giant spider for
Mhm.
Ravnica. You
Okay.
know, something like Glintweaver actually, where it's a big spider that then I don't know puts +1/+1 counters on something. Maybe you make it like a big 4/5 for 5 reach with or maybe reach death touch. I feel like having big butt death touchers is something that like they do, but they don't often come with a ton of power. I think you could get away with having like a really big 4/5, a really big reach death toucher at uncommon.
This is unexciting though.
It
For
is
let
unexciting. I
think
am
bigger.
think
Show
bigger.
me a 7 mana uncommon spider for the new
7 mana
generation.
uncommon spider for the new
Ye
generation.
yes.
Hmm.
And maybe the thing that we do is we say, "Actually, this is a 7 mana common spider, and it's so big." Um, or maybe should this have a fight in it somewhere? Should it be slightly smaller, but it comes with some card advantage? What's, this is a part of the task of elemental card design.
I don't feel like I'd want like you'd kind of expect maybe a Golgari spider that's a 1/4 reach death toucher that when it enters fights something. Oh,
Which is
that's small, but
and that's straight murder.
it is
That's
straight
also
murder. Yes, but
mhm.
it also like it can be straight murder because it's Golgari.
True, true.
Like we're kind of allowing the like flavor of the sort of oh it's black and green of gold cards to make it just maybe like a 3 mana 3/4 3 mana 3/4 ETB fight with reach and death touch as sort of like a a Golgari sort of hey this is like really strong removal but you're gonna need it to be one black green to play it. Oh, that might be
Um,
too much, but we're not here to balance these cards. So
Yeah, but we are here to, I think, maybe reasonably assign these things. I don't know about one black and a green for a 3/4 reach death touch
Yeah,
that enters the battlefield fights.
yeah,
That
that does
that
seem,
I don't think that's a card.
but maybe like a 1, 2, 3 or something. Although that's kind of a like a foundations 2. Give me the 1 black green 2/3 death touch reach fight guy. That
Okay.
sounds like foundations 2
I
as
do
an
think
uncommon.
we can tap into the idea of how the gold spiders work. So it's one black and a green for a reach, death touch, and let's call it a 2/4. Reach, death touch, 2/4 for one black and a green, and then you pay one black green. This fights something else. Uh, I'm so tempted to make it a 3/3 instead of a 2/4. That's very
Well, I
threesy. To 3 mana for a 3/3 reach death touch, and then you can pay an additional 3 mana for it to fight something? It's very threesy.
I would definitely not want you to be able to like just pay for that. You know, that's just way too
Or
much
it's
removal.
a fight. This bites something, and you sacrifice it.
Sort of like that one adventure in red causing all the problems that caused all the problems in standard.
But also similar to giant trapdoor spider, so we can kind
Yes.
of call back to that sort of idea.
Yes. Yes. The idea of like you exile the thing, you
Mhm.
sacrifice the spider as sort of part of the effect instead of part of the cost, so the fight still works. I could see
Yeah,
that, you
yeah.
know.
So let's put that in as our rare, I think.
Yeah, that does feel like it has crept up over time.
Okay. Can you think about a uncommon Innistrad style spider or spider card? Maybe it doesn't even need to be a spider itself, but let's think of an uncommon for an Innistrad set that creates or engages with the little 1/2 green spider creature tokens with reach.
Hmm. I mean, I know this is kind of the sort of whole spider spawning gimmick,
Mhm.
but like something that's sort of, you know how the spiders carry the egg sacs on their back,
Sure.
right? And like I'm 90% sure this is like schoolyard tales, but like the spider, you squash the spider with the egg sac on its back and it explodes into spiders.
Sure.
So what if we had a like 3 mana 2/3 or a 3 mana 3/4 that had reach and a dies trigger that when this dies, spider spawning.
Oh, when it dies, you cast spider spawning.
Yeah,
Interesting. 'Cause we saw Broodweaver, in Midnight Hunt at uncommon. That's a 3 and a green, 2/4 with reach, and when it dies, you create 1. Interesting.
yeah,
Interesting.
it's you can do it, but you know, and maybe that might be too good, but like you don't get as much control over it, and like sometimes it will just happen, and you've got to sort of deal with that. And then there's other things like maybe a true spider spawning is too much for that card, but like sort of the idea of oh it dies into a bunch of spiders feels like something that's really a fun thing. Maybe it's for like well I don't really want you to have to like divide the number for like every other spider card in your graveyard, you know?
Do you wanna
That
be spider cards and not creature cards in your graveyard?
I feel like we couldn't get enough spider cards. But like
Mhm.
I don't especially not for like an Innistrad set. I mean, I guess maybe we could have it as like an uncommon build around with a common, you know, giant spider. So maybe that could work.
Okay.
There's like a 1/2 reach death touch and maybe one other common spider. Well, this is more getting into like the set structure you'd have to have it be spider cards, but I think you can probably do like we're trying to have sort of this spider build around, in the set
Okay.
where
Yeah. What
would
if
it work?
mhm.
Sorry, would it count itself as a card in the graveyard with the dice trigger?
I I never know these things.
You never know that these things. That's
I
fair.
or maybe I will respond instead, as the poets would. They're gods in the stars, according to some, great engines of fire, according to others. Knowing was never ours to have.
Okay.
Which is to say, who could possibly know except for the people who do know? Knowing was never ours to have. We could say for each other creature card in your graveyard, say, hey, you need to have other creature cards. So this specifically is like a combination sort of card. What so we have I'm calling this card Brood Widow. I think that's a fun, simple, captures a lot of the words that we use around the spiders to begin with. We've got Reach. When this dies, create a 1/2 green spider creature token with Reach for each other creature card in your graveyard. What power toughness, what cost do we want this at uncommon?
I think. I think. I think you might want to make it 4G, right? Because
4G? Okay.
yeah, just because like that ability is incredibly strong. Actually,
Okay.
you know,
And so
Eh,
at at 4G, do you
with
want
with
this
two
to
three
be
power and toughness.
2, 3? Okay,
Yeah, it's super undercosted, but it explodes into a bajillion creatures.
great, great. That's a fun, little uncommon, simple callback, plausible alongside any sort of, like, sacrifice strategies or things like
I mean,
that.
this is Innistrad. There's gonna be sacrifice strategies,
Mhm.
you
Okay,
know?
so now getting back to the giant spiders. Now let's think about a common, minimum mana value 6, ideally 7. So for 4 green and a green or 5 green and a green, a common spider. What are we thinking?
Hmm. Think there aren't many attack triggers on like giant spiders. I was
Sure.
thinking at like 7 mana, you kind of get to do whatever you want,
Mhm.
right? So I was thinking you have it be 7G 5/7 and with reach, and whenever this creature attacks, put put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. I think
Okay.
that's mostly like we want you to get in there and beat face with your giant reach trample. Yeah.
Okay, I've got a fun, um, ca can we say when this attacks you put, like, a reach counter on target creature
Ooh,
you
put a
control?
reach counter. That like the problem is at like 7 mana,
Uh-huh.
maybe put your choice of a reach or death touch counter on target creature you control, which still kind of makes it. I like that haste, reach, trample.
Haste, reach, trample. When this attacks, put a
Put your choice of a reach or death touch counter.
wow. So this could be a haste, reach, trample, death touch
Yes.
when it attacks. Okay, yeah. Put your choice of a reach counter or death touch counter on target creature you control. This feels a little bit like a it's way too it would need like affinity or convoke or something to be a modern horizons common, but it does it does feel like it is. But it is playing with just like all evergreen keywords, right? So this is
Yeah. I
helping
mean,
someone remember.
I think with something that big, right? Like
Mhm.
the only problem I have is that it's kind of really defensive for a creature that has an attack trigger, which is kind of strange.
Right, and part of what I like about when this attacks, you can put a reach counter on something is like, listen, this should block the flyers, but you can have it attack instead and put the other things. I I don't know how much I love being able to put a death touch counter on a trampler.
Oh, that is true. I forgot about
Mhm.
the death touch trample thing. Maybe we do
Uh,
take off
yeah.
trample.
Or what about when this attacks, put your choice of a reach counter or a death touch counter on another target creature you control.
Ah, we could
And so
that would also work.
what's a good Ravnica name? Archweaver Goliath spider. Something about
Oh,
um, what's the place that all the Gruul cards reference?
oh, the rubble belt,
Yeah, yeah.
like rubble belt leaper.
Leaper? A giant jumping spider is a really fun idea. I do like a weird hasty thing. Of course, we are forgetting one of the when we talk about, famous spiders, there's a really, famous Ravnica multicolor card that most people think of as a spider. That's giant solifuge, which is, of course, an insect that just happens to look like a spider that has, if I remember correctly, haste and shroud, which was a big deal
It's
in
trample
Standard.
haste shroud
Yeah,
from Guild Pack.
yeah,
Okay,
that was
I was looking at the Eternal Masters version and not
mhm,
the Guild Pack version. That is definitely a spider.
mhm.
Oh, there are some like false spiders out there,
Yeah, yeah, which I
but
believe, solifuges literally are. Uh, wait, no, solifuges are arachnids. That's so
yeah, but
that's so
they're
funny.
not spiders,
Sure, sure. That is a good point. But yeah,
right?
Trample, Haste, Shroud, its own thing. Yeah, haste, reach, trample, and then it can put reach or death touch. Rebel Rebel Evergreen.
Rubber belt leaper.
Axebane, Axebane Leaper.
Yeah, like, and it's a gigantic wolf spider, which
Ooh.
they've had some of those.
Do you have a name you would want for our black green rare that death touch bites and dies?
Hmm.
Maybe that could be a recluse of some sort?
Ooh, yes, a recluse. Because I mean, I've got nothing. I mean, we've recluse.
Yeah,
I like that one. That's a
yeah.
good one.
So we have Brood Widow for 4 and a green at common. That's a 2/3 creature spider with reach. When this dies, create a 1/2 green spider creature token with reach for each other creature card in your graveyard. We have at uncommon Axebane Leaper for 5 green and a green. It's a 5/7 creature spider with haste, reach, trample. When this attacks, put your choice of a reach counter or death touch counter on another target creature you control. And at rare, we have Reckless Recluse for 1 black and a green. That's a reach, death touch 2/4 with 1 black and a green tap. This bites something and you sacrifice it. I think we've at least cut a little bit of path for maybe some future webs and spiders. Have you heard the phrase "step into my parlor," said the spider to the fly?
I believe I have, but I could not tell you like the rest of anything else about it.
Sure. Well, if you want to learn more about various aphorisms, you might want to hit the books, which is the name of our September design challenge, which is hit the books, design a card with a 3-card spell book. All cards in the spell book should be canon cards. Should be, magic cards you could search up on Scryfall, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We've got our bonus points here, which are common knowledge. Either the design submission itself or the 3 spellbook cards are common. And School of Fish. It's a merfolk or cares about merfolk or gifts a fish. And those submissions will be due September 26th. So when you are hearing this, go ahead and get those in. We'll want to get those in this week.
One thing I have seen a bit in this is that I don't think you should actually be drafting cards from this spell book.
Mhm.
It's a bit small to be drafting cards from. Uh, Although draft is like incredibly catchy, I guess, for
Mhm.
like choose is a great way of shortening like choose a card of your choice from a spell book that is like only 3 cards.
Yeah.
If
I
that
think
makes sense.
I think it works kind of both ways. As long as you aren't using draft and then assuming that's gonna be a limiting factor, draft can work when you don't wanna use conjure. We've also seen some folks try out, some ways to kind of make this work in paper, which I am totally thumbs up on. Like, "Hey, we're gonna do the equivalent of a spell book, but, we're gonna do I don't know, is it Garth One Eye that we always think
Yes,
about?
Darth One
Yeah.
Eye as he sort of conjures like copies of a bunch of old iconic alpha cards.
Mhm. So that's our podcast for this week. You can join our Discord with the link in the show notes. Thanks for coming on, Gabe. Anything else you'd like to tell people about?
Thank you for having me on.
Great. Fantastique. Thanks for listening, and always remember, spiders can block flames as though they had flying.
Exactly.